I would probably identify more as the prodigal. I may have appeared as the older brother, like to some people, but I think interior wise, I feel like the prodigal, right? And so, one thing that is a pitfall for that side of the story is so you've come back to God, you've repented of everything, you kind of switch to that older brother mentality of, well, what's wrong with the rest of you people? Like, why aren't you shaping up too, right? Without like giving that grace of everyone's kind of on a different timeline for their conversion process. And so to me, that was something that I had to struggle with too. And so it's like, even though I would have called myself a prodigal, I also dealt with the same kind of self-righteousness and like motivation for the wrong reasons. And so, and in both of those scenarios, you're looking at just a lack of love for the other brother.
Right. But I think it's interesting that the relationship is so important here between the two brothers. The older brother is standing in judgment to the prodigal, and the prodigal is coming home dragging this trail of disgrace, right? And when we look at the modern church, we're full. Sometimes the same person can be both the prodigal and the older brother at varying times of their life, right?
Absolutely.
But we all need to come to each other through the Father's love and recognize where we're coming from and where we're ultimately headed.
I think that's really beautiful. And I think that's also a good example for all of us in churches now who maybe we find it easier to welcome in a prodigal because we see that as like the loving Jesus example, right? And I think it's maybe a little harder for us to have grace to extend to the older brother.
Somebody who's struggling with self-righteousness or judgmentalness.
Exactly. It's so much easier to resist those relationships where maybe we need to lean into those relationships. Maybe we could do a self-evaluation. Like, do we find it easier to love the prodigal?
Yeah.
Do we find it difficult to love the prodigal? Do we find it easy to love the older brother? Do we find it difficult to love the older brother?
Yeah. And sorry to insert,
go.
When you think about the prodigal, a lot of times they come dragging this trail of hurt and betrayal behind them. You know, the older brother had a hard time because he had been hurt deeply by the actions of this younger brother. And so there's a lot of healing and restoration that needs to go on there. It's not this easy, oh, well, we just love them, you know. This is a sacrificial love. This is a hard thing.
So if this is something that speaks to you, then be sure and check out the study guide this week because we'll have lots more to take things further and help you to do that exploration on your own.